When I brought my nanny to a lavish gala, I never expected her life-changing secret to unravel. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The ballroom was a sea of shimmering gowns, the air thick with laughter and clinking glasses. My heart raced as I walked in with her, my usually composed caregiver, now looking like a deer in headlights. She clutched the diamonds around her neck, trembling slightly, as if unsure she belonged in this world of wealth and elegance that I could see the hushed whispers ripple through the crowd. Who was she? The servant's daughter or a long-lost princess? I glanced around, feeling the weight of prying eyes, a mix of intrigue and judgment hanging in the air. The chandeliers sparkled above us, each light casting a glow that seemed to highlight her discomfort like a spotlight. This wasn't the nanny I knew, the one who wiped my tears and shared stories of her modest life. As we stepped further into the crowd, a chill crawled along my spine. It wasn't just the lavish surroundings or the thick perfume in the air. Something about her posture, her quick glances, sent alarm bells ringing in my mind. The way she shifted from foot to foot, hands wringing with unease, told me something was wrong. "Mia, I don't think I should be here," she whispered, her voice barely reaching above the music. Laced with fear, the tears began to brim in her eyes, making my heart ache. I remembered how she had raised me, the late nights she stayed up with me, the sacrifices she made. But now, standing in this opulent hall, I saw her vulnerable side, and it terrified me. "Nanny, you'll be fine. Just breathe," I urged, sensing the panic rise like a flame. But the smile on her face looked more like a mask, hiding something deep beneath, something she was afraid to reveal. Suddenly, the music shifted, the atmosphere became electric. A man, impeccably dressed with an air of power, stepped forward. His presence swallowed the room, whispers falling silent. As he locked eyes with Nanny, a flicker of recognition darted between them. My breath caught. Who was he? And why did she look so horrified? Nanny's hand shot to her mouth, eyes wide, and for a moment, I saw her, the real her, not the caretaker, but a woman with secrets, with a past I didn't know. Panic rose inside me. Had I brought her here to expose her? What was she hiding? The realization hit me like a thunderbolt. What if she was more than my nanny? What if there was a life she had never shared with me? The music pulsated around us, the crowd remained oblivious to the storm brewing between the three of us. My heart raced, drowning out the noise, just waiting for the moment to explode, and then, just like that, she turned on her heel. My heart sank as she rushed out, leaving me standing there, stunned, frozen in a world that felt suddenly foreign. I wanted to run after her, to demand answers, to understand the truth behind her secrets. But the man's eyes bored into me, igniting a new wave of fear. I was caught in a web I never knew existed. What happened next? I was left with the weight of unasked questions heavy on my chest, the echo of potential loss ringing in my ears. Who was she really? And why did seeing him send her running? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sound of my heart thudded in my ears as I stood frozen in the midst of that elegant chaos. The glittering chandeliers above blurred into a fog of confusion, the kind that clouds your vision when you know something's gone wrong but can't quite grasp what it is. I felt unmoored, as if the ground beneath me had given way. The man's piercing gaze remained locked onto me, a silent challenge that urged me to move, to choose which path to follow. After what felt like an eternity, I shook off my stupor and stumbled toward the exit, my mind racing with the weight of the questions that tumbled like stones in my chest. Had I really just seen my nanny run away, as if fleeing from a ghost? This wasn't the woman I had shared so many memories with. The kind, wise figure who taught me how to bake cookies on rainy afternoons, not this desolate creature overwhelmed by her past, bursting through the grand doors. I gulped in the cool night air. The fresh breeze offered little comfort, and my thoughts spiraled like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Had I been so wrapped up in my world of privilege that I never noticed her burdens? I felt a pang of guilt stab through me. What had I done? I had dragged her into those shimmering depths, and now I feared I might have pushed her away forever. I spotted her at the far end of the driveway, standing alone by a row of flowering bushes, her silhouette riddled with uncertainty. Approaching her felt like walking on glass, each step a risk, every word a potential fracture in the fragile moment. "Nanny!" I called, my voice shaking slightly. Her head whipped around, eyes flooded with a mix of relief and sheer terror as they met mine. "Please, just go back inside," she urged, her voice choked. The elegance of her gown fluttered in the night breeze, but it only drew attention to the trapped vulnerability I could see etched on her face. No. "You don't have to run. Just talk to me, please," I implored, stepping closer. I felt the tremor in her shoulders, the brittle tension that cracked the air between us. "I saw the way he looked at you. What happened back there?" For a moment, she stood silent, tears threatening to spill onto her cheeks. "You don't understand," she said, her voice a whisper as she cast her eyes down. "Life isn't always as it seems. I thought I had left that part of me behind." "Left what behind?" I pressed, feeling the weight of her words. "You don't have to hide from me, Nanny. Whatever it is, I can handle it." Her eyes flashed, a fleeting moment of anger piercing through her fear. "You haven't seen it. You haven't lived it," she snapped, as if the truth was a wound that had never healed. "It's ugly and complicated, and I can't drag you into it. You deserve better than dealing with my shadows." "Better? What does that even mean? You're the only family I've ever known." My voice rose, desperation giving way to a mix of hurt and anger. "You think I don't want to understand? You think running away will make it better?" With a shuddering breath, she looked away, struggling against her emotions. "There are things I can't change, things that are bigger than both of us," she murmured, her voice faltering, as if the weight of her secrets threatened to crush her. In that moment, I stepped closer, reaching for her hands, desperate to connect. "Whatever it is, we can face it together. You're not alone." But just as her fingers brushed against mine, a car roared to life in the parking lot, tires screeching against the asphalt. My heart dropped as I recognized the sleek silhouette. The man from the gala emerged, his eyes sharp and filled with intent. "You can't ignore your past forever, Mia," he shouted, his voice accusatory, a stark contrast to the chaotic emotions swirling between Nanny and me. The fear in Nanny's eyes morphed into the sheer terror of a cornered animal. "No," she breathed, her voice cracking, as the reality of that name spilled out into the night. "You said you would leave me alone." I looked back and forth between her and the man, a frigid chill wrapping around me as the implication of his words struck like lightning. "Mia? Is that your name? Who are you?" My mind raced, each new revelation pulling the threads of my entire understanding of her life apart. The facade of normalcy began to crumble before my eyes, and as the night air thickened with tension, it became clear the secrets Nanny held were far deeper, and far darker, than I could have ever imagined. And as the man took a menacing step closer, I felt the last remnants of my innocence slip away, leaving only an overwhelming sense of dread and impending doom. The cliff between us was steep, and I feared that plunging into that abyss would change everything I knew about love, loyalty, and family. I stood there, heart racing, rooted in place, desperate to reclaim the truth before it slipped through my fingers forever. The night cracked with tension, and my breaths turned shallow as I fought against the tide of confusion and fear rolling between us. Nanny's face was a canvas of despair, my heart aching with each passing second. Why had she never confided in me about this part of her life? I felt myself torn apart, hopelessly wishing to erase the shadows surrounding her, yet acutely aware that I was standing on a precipice, teetering between understanding and ignorance. "You don't know him." Nanny's voice quivered, but there was a fire kindling somewhere deep within her. You don't know what he's capable of. Her hands trembled as she wrestled to pull away from my grasp, the urgency growing almost unbearable. The man stepped closer, a wolf encroaching on its prey, his eyes roving over us with an unsettling satisfaction. What did you think would happen, Mia? He taunted, a smirk curling at the edges of his lips. Did you believe you could disappear from all of this? That I wouldn't come back for what's mine? His words wrapped around the night like barbed wire, cutting deep into my confusion and igniting pure fury. As I glanced at Nanny, her hazel eyes filled with unshed tears reflected everything I feared, not just for her safety but for the sanctity of our bond. This wasn't just about her anymore, it felt like an assault on the fragile world we had built together. I squeezed her hands tighter, giving her an anchor, a tether to hold on to amidst the chaos. Who are you? I finally demanded, the strength in my voice surprising even me. What does she mean to you? His cold laughter echoed in the night air, striking against my resolve. She means everything to me, just as she once meant everything to her family. The way he emphasized those words sent shudders through my soul, engulfing me in dread. You think she's found solace in this pretty little life? She's simply hiding behind a mask, that's all. No. I cried out, turning to Nanny, pleading with my eyes. Tell me it's not true. You're not hiding from anything. You're so much more than that. But the quiver in her chin betrayed her and spoke volumes of the life she had led before stepping into my world. I thought I could protect you, she whispered, her voice laced with the fragility of shattered dreams. I should have known the past wouldn't let me go that easily. The man stepped forward, taking advantage of our moment of weakness. And now it's time to remind you, he said, his voice now a low, venomous whisper. In an instant, clarity struck. I realized I couldn't let this man control our fate. The shadows encroaching upon us had found a way to seep into our reality, and it was time for us to fight back. You won't take her, I yelled, channeling the wrath of countless sleepless nights filled with confusion and fear. He chuckled, but there was something slightly frayed in his demeanor, a flicker of uncertainty. You think you can save her? You're just a child playing at love. The renewed resolve erupting within me fueled my courage. I may not be strong enough to face whoever you are to her, but I promise you, I will protect her at all costs. Nanny's eyes widened, but I sensed a glimmer of humor and disbelief mixed with pride. You don't understand what you're committing to, she breathed, a mix of fear and admiration dancing in her gaze. The past can't be ignored or erased, but together, we can face whatever it throws at us, I insisted, amplifying my words with the force of my heart's beat. This was no longer just about me discovering the truth, it was about standing by the woman who taught me the essence of courage, no matter the shape it took. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps made my heart leap. I turned as a group of guests emerged from the gala, laughter spilling into the air, oblivious to the storm gathering outside. But there, among them, was someone I recognized, a face I never expected to see again. Jamie, the one friend who had always stood by my side. Call the police, I shouted, panic lacing my voice, my eyes darting back to the man who remained unfazed by our plight. He simply smirked, refusing to yield to fear, but as Jamie reached us, the warmth of familiarity enveloped me like a safety net. What's going on? She asked, her voice the balm I desperately needed. Get Nanny away from here, I yelled, urgency slicing through the frosty air. We need help. Nanny's eyes searched mine, filled with desperation and terror, reminding me of how dire our circumstances truly were. And just as Jamie stepped forward, the man recoiled slightly, his figure taut with possible retaliation. I could feel the adrenaline pooling, preparing me for whatever came next, though I knew in my heart the night had only just begun. As Jamie grabbed Nanny's arm to pull her away, the man's voice cut through the din, drenching us in ice. You won't go far with your secrets, Mia. They're all coming back to haunt you. And just like that, with the night stretching onward, the shadows loomed larger than ever. A shroud of uncertainty enveloped the air, a reminder that the truth is a double-edged sword, and now, more than ever, I wondered just how deep these secrets ran. My heart raced, an ominous beat in the gathering dark while I clung to hope, fearing that the past was no longer a distant memory, it was the haunting fate that awaited us all. The air crackled with tension as Jamie's grip tightened around Nanny's trembling arm. The world seemed to halt, pulsating with fear and uncertainty. My heart raced, every instinct screamed for action, but the shadows of our reality threatened to engulf us whole. "Nanny, please, we have to go," Jamie urged, her eyes darting nervously between the man and us. The chaos of the gala faded into a distant hum, leaving only the raw intensity of our situation. "We can't let him take you back." For a fleeting moment, Nanny's gaze softened, a flicker of something unspoken passing between her and Jamie. I could sense her internal battle, torn between the familiar pull of her past and the desire to escape into an uncertain future. I stepped closer, my chest tightening as the man's smile spread wider, a predator savoring its moment of triumph. "Don't you see?" he taunted, his voice smooth and dangerously calm. "Running won't save her. She will always belong to the life I've built for her, the life she's trying so desperately to forget." "Nanny, you don't have to go back to him," I implored, reaching out to touch her shoulder, wanting to physically ground her in the present. "We can confront this together. We are stronger than he knows." Her tears misted in the night, a glimmer of hope entwined with the haunting words of the man. "You don't understand," she started, her voice quivering on the verge of breaking. He has eyes everywhere. I thought I could keep you all safe. My desire for freedom has put you in danger." Entrapment clawed at me, a rising tide of desperation. I would not let her blame herself any longer. "Nanny," I said firmly, "no more hiding. We can face him together no matter what comes next." Surprisingly, it was Jamie who stepped forward, redirecting attention to the man. "You need to leave her alone," she declared, defiance blazing in her gaze. In a world dominated by fear, there was a spark of courage that I had not expected from her. It was inspiring. "She's not a possession. She's a person, and you're not welcome here." The man's laughter rang out like bells in the oppressive silence, a chilling sound that felt like it belonged to a different world. "You think your little band of misfits can protect her? This kind of mess doesn't go away with bravado and bravado alone." My heart sank. It was apparent that his bluster masked an underlying unease. Still, I needed to harness that uncertainty, to channel the energy swirling around us. "Maybe you're right," I said, my voice steady. "But we will not let you have that power over her anymore. We can break whatever hold you have on her life." In that moment, Nanny seemed to draw strength, her posture straightening just a fraction, as though I had awakened something long dormant. "I can't let you control my fate anymore," she whispered, but it was still lacking the conviction needed to push back the darkness. Suddenly, a new figure emerged from the gala doors, catching me off guard. It was Mrs. Reynolds, the wealthy benefactor, her voice honeyed but commanding as she approached, observing the trio before her. "Mia, dear, is everything all right? You look rather pale." "Get back inside, Mrs. Reynolds. This isn't safe," I called, barely managing to maintain my composure despite the knot forming in my stomach. But before she could react, the man's demeanor shifted, his interest peaked. Ah, a wealthy socialite oblivious to the true struggles of those around her. "I've found you here, haven't I? Perhaps it's time you learned the truth about your dear friend." "No," Nanny whispered, but the desperation in her voice grounded us. Each piece fell into place, a disjointed puzzle still in need of completion. If he intended to unravel our secrets before an audience, it could mean disaster. But Mrs. Reynolds took a step closer, brushing aside my protests with sheer determination. "Leave my event," she countered. "If you think you can terrorize my guests, you'll find you are mistaken." It was surprising, her presence unexpected, and yet there was a quiet strength in her unwavering stance. The man regarded her coolly, assessing his options. "You think this is an event?" he scoffed. "It's a masquerade ball wrapped in lies." Mia here knows what I'm capable of. Her nanny does too. My stomach twisted painfully, the accuracy of his words cutting deeper than anticipated. Don't! I shouted, though my voice cracked. The stakes were rising unbearably high, blurring the lines of safety and danger. The tension hung thick, and in that charged silence, the capstone fell. The quiet clang of opportunity amidst chaos resonated within me. I'd had enough of hiding behind fear. If you think you can turn us against each other, you're wrong. We'll fight this together, every last one of us. Nanny deserves peace. A quiet, tense moment held us captive until Jamie took a step forward, determination casting her shoulders back. We will stand for what's right. You'll not win here. The man looked from Nanny to Jamie to Mrs. Reynolds as if weighing his options, an unseen tempest brewing behind those cold eyes. Then, with a quirk of his lips that hinted at menace, he leaned closer, sneering. A gathering like this, it holds its secrets, doesn't it? They can be so revealing. I felt a chill run through me, as realization crashed over us like a wave. We had yet to grasp the extent of the storms lurking just out of sight. All at once, I understood, the reveal of those secrets which had protected Nanny wasn't merely a threat, it was a call to arms. I'm done living in fear, I declared, resolution firming in my heart. And just as I thought we might harness our courage, the man stepped back, a flicker of his former bravado returning. Then brace yourselves, he waved, a phantom of derision dancing on the edge of his lips. You may not know how deep the abyss goes. But trust me, it does. And when it comes, you won't have the strength to fight. The back door to the gala slammed shut behind him, leaving us in a silence that felt more profound than even the chaos that had come before. Our hearts were left racing, and I realized then, we were all but pawns in a game that had barely even begun. The truth loomed over us, a specter that demanded to be faced. And as I turned to Nanny, the weight of fear coiled around my chest like a vice. I knew deep down that our fight was far from over. The night stretched out like a taut string ready to snap, an almost existential weight pressing down on us. I could feel Nanny trembling beside me, and the glow from the remaining candles flickered wildly, casting ghostly shadows against the high marble walls. The gala's laughter echoed faintly in the distance, a cruel reminder of how disconnected we were from that world, where guests whirled in revelry, blissfully unaware of the darkness encroaching upon us. Nanny, are you all right? I whispered, my voice edged with concern. She didn't respond immediately, her eyes trained on the door the man had disappeared through, as if hoping he would re-emerge with a revelation rather than a threat. I don't know what's going to happen now, Nanny admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, a tremor running through her. It tore at my heart to see her like this, trapped between her past and our present. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but I feared making the wrong move would send her spiraling back into despair. Jamie squeezed my hand, a quiet solidarity that grounded me momentarily. We won't let him control us, she asserted, her voice surprisingly steady despite the fear pulsing beneath the surface. There was a fire in her that warmed me, flickering hope in our hour of need. Mrs. Reynolds looked on, her gaze flickering between us and the empty doorway. There are resources we can use, connections I can leverage. This man may think he holds the power, but he doesn't know who he's challenged, she said, her brow furrowing with determination. Well, find a way to protect Nanny. Nanny lifted her gaze to Mrs. Reynolds, confused yet curious about the plan. But what if he retaliates? What if I drag you all deeper into his world? Her voice cracked, an edge of terror mingling with the quiet desperation that seemed to envelop her like a shroud. Then we'll face that storm together, I replied, a swell of conviction rising within me. No one has to face it alone. We aren't merely guests in this struggle. We are family, and family fights for each other. That sense of unity resonated for a heartbeat, binding us together in an invisible thread woven from fear, defiance, and a flickering light of hope. It was a fragile alliance, but it was ours. In that brief moment, I saw Nanny transform. A glimmer of fight sparked to life in her eyes, igniting the dormant resolve I hoped to harness. But then, like a dark cloud rolling across the horizon, doubt crept in again. You don't understand what you're up against, she murmured, looking away. He doesn't play by the same rules as you do. He takes everything from you until you have nothing left to give. Even love, especially love, the finality in her tone sent shockwaves through me, as if an unseen hand gripped my chest in fear of losing her to a past that I still didn't fully understand. I brushed my thumb across the back of her hand, a comforting gesture meant to dredge the strength I knew still resided in her heart. You've already given so much. This time, it's our turn to give for you, I promised, seeking her gaze, desperation spilling over. You are not trapped. We can break these chains. Just as I spoke, a light flickered from the direction of the ball's grand entrance. My heart raced. Had he returned with more threats? But as the figure stepped into view, I saw it was not him, it was Nadia, a close friend from our past, her face pale but determined as she hurried towards us. Mia. Jamie. Nanny. She exclaimed, urgency in her voice. I overheard him. He's not just playing a game. He's planning something big. We must act fast. He wants to exploit your connections, Mrs. Reynolds. He wants to strip Nanny of any remaining protection. As her words sunk in, an icy grip seized my heart. It wasn't merely about saving Nanny anymore, this was a confrontation that threatened to spill into everyone's lives. My mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle that had now shifted dramatically. There were layers to this conflict, hidden dangers that lurked beneath the surface. That we have to regroup, I said, forcing my voice to steady even as dread clawed at my insides. We cannot let him pull us apart or use our fear against us. Trust is our strongest weapon, but as the words left my lips, Nanny stepped back, shaking her head, a tremor of discontent clouding her features. You don't know what he's capable of. If you expose him, you risk everything. I won't let you. Don't you dare say you won't let us help you. I interrupted, unable to contain the surge of emotion that threatened to overwhelm me. The tears in her eyes mirrored the storm consuming my heart. Our lives were already tangled in the darkest of webs, and fear could not dictate our next steps. A look of sorrow passed between Nanny and me, yet before any more words could take form, a loud crash reverberated through the gala, followed by panicked shouts. The haunting reality of the situation snapped into focus. The man had returned, and this time, we would not have the luxury of mere words. As he strode into our line of sight, his features twisted in a cruel smile, I realized with dread that our reckoning was upon us far sooner than I had anticipated. The delicate web we had spun began to fray at the edges, and in the heart of that chaos, if we didn't unite now, the truth would unleash a wave of torment that could drag us all under. Prepare yourselves, I muttered under my breath, glancing at Jamie and Nadia, and then back to Nanny, her eyes now wide with a mix of fear and resolve. With the stakes rising like a tidal wave, I turned to face the inevitable storm, knowing we would either rise together or be swept away into the abyss he had promised. The silence that followed the crash felt deafening, as if the world outside had come to a complete standstill. The man's presence loomed like a dark cloud, and an unshakable chill infiltrated our small group. Each of us held our breath, hearts pounding together in an unspoken rhythm of dread and determination. That I searched the faces of my friends, and found Jamie's eyes filled with unyielding courage, while Nadia moved slightly ahead, protective instinct surging forth. I looked at Nanny, the anguish etched on her face. In that moment, I understood whatever darkness this man brought into our lives, it was also threatening to consume Nanny. We wouldn't let that happen. Stay close, I said, wrapping my fingers around Nanny's trembling hand. We face this together. Nanny held my gaze, indescribable emotions flickering within her blue eyes. You don't know what you're asking for, she whispered, her voice thick with fear. The man strode forward, the elegance of his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the malevolence that seemed to seep from his very being. Ah, how heartwarming, he mocked, a venomous smile curling upon his lips. You think you can unite against me? Such naive hope. His words cut through the air, sharp and taunting. You see, my dear Miss Nanny, the past does have a way of resurfacing, like a serpent awaiting its chance to strike. I've always been one step ahead. It was cute, your little plan, but it lacks foresight. You cannot protect what is already tainted. With that, a flicker of recognition surged within me. I thought of the whispers I'd overheard, the hushed conversations between Nanny and her old friend, something about a past life, regret, shadows chasing her even now. What are you saying? I demanded, my voice breaking the haze of disbelief. What do you want with her? The man's laughter resonated through the hall, echoing hauntingly off the marble walls. She owes me. It's a debt her family has tried to escape for decades. I merely want what is mine. Before he could say more, I could feel an uprising of defiance within me, a potent blend of rage and protection. If Nanny owes you anything, it's a debt you've forced upon her. You're a coward, hiding behind threats and manipulation. What kind of man preys on those who are vulnerable? The laughter ceased, his eyes narrowing dangerously. Do tread carefully, little girl. It would be unwise to provoke me, especially when I hold all the cards. One move from me, and your beloved Nanny's past will dismantle everything you cherish. Don't test the depth of the pit. A paralyzing wave of dread washed over me, this man exuding a sense of control that felt omnipresent. Yet, as I met Nanny's gaze, I saw a flicker of something else: defiance. She clenched her jaw as if gathering strength from deep within. I will not let my past determine my future, Nanny declared, her voice breaking through the tension in the air. You may have been a thread in my life's fabric, but you will not weave the final pattern. I will not be your prisoner again. It was a defining moment, a voice that rose amid their darkness, cutting through whatever grip he thought he had on her. The man's expression darkened, his frustration palpable. The words he began to utter were drowned out by the panicked rush of the gala attendees fleeing behind us, cries of confusion and terror spiraling into the night. My pulse quickened, time felt frozen, yet change swept through the room like the impending storm. Run! Jamie shouted, grabbing Nanny's freed hand. We have to get out while we can. In that chaotic moment, the urgency of being cornered sent an electric current surging through me. I turned, ready to lead us away, but the man's voice halted us again. You really think you can escape me? I wish I could show you the future I have planned for you all. Perhaps the choice will come down to one of you paying the price for your foolish defiance. In an instant, I felt the weight of his words upon my heart, suffocating and relentless. I turned back to him, the resolve building again in my chest. We won't lose to you. Our story isn't over yet. The man stepped back, his lips curling into a twisted grin. But it will be a tale of betrayal. Perhaps one of you will crumble, proving her point. You'll face the real consequences of your actions soon enough. With that warning resonating, the moment shifted, the lights flickering ominously just as we started to turn towards the exit. I couldn't shake that terrible thought: what if he was right? In that hesitant instant, I glanced around for options. As if in sync with my own thoughts, Nadia shot me a knowing look. If we stick together, we can outsmart him, she urged. Well, regroup, well, find a plan. Nanny, hide with us, no matter what. We have to move, I urged, panic creeping in, weighted with the fear of what lay ahead. But as we began to retreat, the rumble of voices rose, intense and clamorous. There were whispers of their fear intensifying. The consequences were becoming clearer. All that glitters is not gold, I repeated softly, an old saying that took on a new meaning in the moment. The lavish gala now seemed a facade over the roiling currents threatening to uproot our lives. As we dashed toward the safety of the dimly lit hallway, one question loomed larger than the rest: would we emerge from this darkness intact, or would the fracture lines of this threat sever us at our very core? Just as we reached the door, I heard an explosion of laughter from behind, a cruel reminder of the lives we each led within the spotlight. But what awaited us outside loomed larger: uncertainty, choices, and the terrifying possibility of losing each other to the shadows of Nanny's past. The storm was brewing, and though we pressed forward, something deep down whispered that it would take just one spark to ignite everything we feared. As we pushed open the door, the last words the man uttered reverberated in my mind like a haunting melody: you will pay for her sins. In that moment, I realized, the real battle was just beginning. The alley behind the grand venue was dim, the cold night air contrasting sharply with the lavish warmth we had just escaped. The chaos of the gala was quickly swallowed by the darkness, but the unease lingered heavily between us. I glanced at Nanny, who stood beside me, her features etched with worry that seemed to deepen by the second. "Where do we go?" Jamie's voice trembled slightly, an undercurrent of fear coloring her words. Nadia leaned close to me, her eyes darting around, scanning for any sign of danger. "We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere he can't reach us," she urged. "Nanny, what do we do?" "You must know something about him, about this debt," Nanny sighed, her hands wringing nervously as though trying to weave the pieces of her past into something coherent. "I've tried to forget," she said finally. "But the truth is, there are things I never shared with you because I hoped they would stay buried. I owe him more than just financial debts. It's tied to the very foundation of my family's history." A chill shot through me, the realization that our path forward was riddled with mysteries that threatened to entangle not just Nanny's fate but our own. "But we can face this together," I insisted, my voice steadier than I felt. "We can figure it out. You're not alone in this." Nanny turned to me, her eyes filled with sorrow and something that resembled gratitude. "I wish it were that simple, my dear. The ties that bind me to him run deep, and breaking free comes at a price." "What price?" I pressed, though dread clung to every syllable. "What does he want?" Her silence stretched for a moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice dropped to a whisper. "My life was intertwined with his long before you were born. When I thought I had escaped, he resurfaced, his shadow trailing me wherever I went." Nadia shook her head, trying to grasp the concept of this sudden revelation. "No more hiding, Nanny. If there's a way to confront him, well, do it. We need answers, and we need them now." Jamie squeezed Nanny's hand gently, a small gesture of reassurance. "We're not letting you go, not now. Whatever this man thinks he has over you, well, break it." Nanny's face softened at our encouragement, yet the intensity of her emotion was evident. "You're all so young, so brave. But this isn't just about me anymore. It's about making a choice. A decision that could change everything," I finished for her, stubbornly pinching my resolve. "Then we make that choice together. Well, figure it out, step by step." Suddenly, a voice interrupted the fragile bond of determination we'd begun to knit. "You think you can just run away?" The malevolence dripped from the words, fully formed and all too familiar. The man emerged from the shadows, his presence looming larger than before. It was as if he had stepped into our world from the very darkness we sought to escape. "You believe in the fairy tale of unity and resilience, but the truth is, the closer you cling to her, the closer you come to her fate." "No!" I shouted, stepping forward instinctively, raising a finger in defiance. "We're not afraid of you," he chuckled softly, a sound like gravel scraping against metal. "Fear is a powerful tool, dear girl. And you'll understand that soon enough." His eyes flicked to Nanny, and for a moment, a sinister satisfaction washed over his features. "After all, we're all just pieces in this game. What will it take to make you see the truth?" In an instant, an overwhelming dread settled deeply within my bones. "What is it you want?" I challenged. "What's happening here?" With the corners of his mouth turning into a sly smirk, he leaned closer to Nanny. "What I want is quite simple, the very essence of her soul in all its intricate, tangled beauty. I'm afraid only a sacrifice can undo her entanglement." A chill settled among us, a dreadful realization that this was not just about Nanny. It was about the lives woven into hers. "What do you mean by sacrifice?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, heavy with understanding that rippled through the silence of the night. He leaned back, eyes glinting with delight as he savored our discomfort. "Ah. That's for you to discover. Perhaps he'll return and grant you the opportunity to choose, your friendship, or your freedom. But know this, for every choice made, someone must pay. He stepped back into the shadows, disappearing as rapidly as he had arrived, poof, like smoke in the wind, leaving in his wake a cold emptiness that surrounded us. In the void that followed, I sensed a new urgency tightening our bonds, but as I turned back to my friends and Nanny, I saw the confusion blossoming in their expressions, the weight of the ultimatum left lingering in the cool night air. Well, face him, I said firmly, though uncertainties gnawed at me harsher than before. We have a chance to break this curse if we can unravel the truth together. Nanny nodded, a glimmer of resolve shining in her eyes. But my heart hammered, knowing that the price we might have to pay, it would forever change everything we believed about ourselves and each other. Just as we made our way into the fog-strewn night, footsteps echoed behind us, closing in. I turned to catch a glimpse, and my breath hitched. The silhouette of a woman, dressed in shadows and threat, emerged on the edge of light. "You're making a grave mistake," she warned, brushing hair from her damp face. "Who are you?" Jamie's voice quivered, tension thrumming thick in the air. The woman smiled, but her eyes were haunted. "I'm the answer to your questions, but also the beginning of your struggles. If you truly wish to know the truth about Nanny's past, you must confront the demons that hide in the light." As she stepped forward, I realized that whatever path lay ahead was now strewn with impossible decisions and delicate possibilities. The game had begun, and whether we would emerge unscathed was a matter of destiny, one that felt dangerously close to a precipice. The air was thick with a palpable tension, a weight that seemed to bear down on us after the shadowy figure slipped into the void. The woman, standing before us like a flickering candle amidst an encroaching darkness, spoke again, each word laced with both urgency and caution. "Listen carefully," she implored, her voice a blend of pain and certainty. "You don't understand the depths of the darkness you're delving into. Nanny's past is riddled with complexities, and awakening old wounds might just set free the very things you wish to keep buried." "Then tell us," I urged, desperation clawing at my throat. "If we're going to confront this man, we need to know what we're facing." She hesitated, her gaze shifting to Nanny, whose expression reflected a mixture of fear and resignation. "Some truths are heavier than you think," the woman said finally, her voice shaking just slightly. "But if you truly wish for the truth, you must be prepared for the pain that comes with it." Nanny's eyes glimmered with unshed tears, and she clenched her fists tightly. "I've run from my past for so long. Perhaps it's time to finally confront it. Perhaps this is my penance. Or your release," the woman suggested softly, her tone almost soothing. "But know this: the price of confronting the past isn't measured in gold or silver, it is measured in the sacrifices that life demands." "Then what do we have to do?" Nadia asked, her voice cutting through the heavy air. She stood tall, facing the woman with an unwavering strength. "If facing these shadows may finally free Nanny and us from his grip, well, take that risk." The woman's gaze softened for a moment, as if she could see the resolute spirits within us, young yet fierce. "To truly understand, you must go to the beginnings. The place where the roots of the past intertwine with the present. You must visit the house that holds Nanny's secrets, the place she swore she would never return to." Nanny inhaled sharply, her voice barely above a whisper. The old estate, her eyes glazed over with memories that flickered like ghosts before her. "I vowed never to step foot there again." "We can't let fear guide our decisions," I said, hoping to embolden her. "You deserve to reclaim your life, Nanny. And well be with you every step of the way." As if pulled by an unseen thread, we began moving toward the entrance of the alley, where memories threatened to unfurl like a shadowy drape. The old estate wasn't just a building, it was a reflection of Nanny's intertwined past with the man who haunted her. A place where choices echoed through time, but as we ventured into the cobblestone streets, Jamie's voice pierced through my thoughts. "What if we don't make it out?" Her eyes were wide, flickering between the hope of discovery and the fear of the past that loomed like a storm cloud overhead. "That's a risk we have to take," I said, pressing my hand against her shoulder. "But we'll face it together. Whatever we uncover, we face it as a family." When we reached the estate, the grand facade loomed before us, cloaked in vines and sorrow. It appeared untouched by time, yet twisted by memories that twisted like the vines themselves. Nanny halted at the entrance. The air grew thick with a familiar scent of damp wood and old secrets. A chill wrapped around us, a bolt of awareness striking deeper than nerves. The door creaked ominously as we pushed it open. Shadows danced beneath the dim light, revealing hallways that appeared to stretch endlessly, each one lined with remnants of a life woven with both love and heartache. Once inside, be prepared to face not only what lies within these walls but also what lurks inside yourselves, the woman had warned. Gulping down my fear, I turned back to the others. Nothing stays hidden forever. We're here for the truth. We can do this. As we moved cautiously through the foyer, the atmosphere thickened with a palpable sense of dread and longing. Each step felt drawn out, the very air crackling with electricity. We paused at a portrait that adorned the wall, a haunting image of Nanny in her youth, standing tall beside a man whose shadow seemed to cling to her. Even in this embodiment of a happier time, who is he? I asked, glancing at Nanny. That's Gregory, she replied, the tremble in her voice underscoring the weight of history. There are stories tied to him that I've kept from you for far too long. Stories that may finally need to be told. Just as she began to speak, a sudden crash resounded from the back of the estate, followed by hurried footsteps. We're not alone, Nadia urged, her eyes wide with alarm. We hurried toward the sound, hearts pounding, and as we rounded the corner, the woman who had approached us in the alley was there in front of us, panic etched into her features. You must leave. He's here. They've followed you. What do you mean? Who? I questioned, confusion scrambling through my thoughts, but before she could answer, a dark figure emerged, shrouded in shadows, and Nanny's expression shifted. You shouldn't have come back, she murmured, her voice trembling. The figure stepped closer, his presence nefarious and unmistakable. Did you think you could simply unravel the threads of your past without facing the consequences? In that instant, as fear coiled tightly around us, I caught a glimpse of the dark man from the alley, a wicked grin forming on his lips. Let the game begin, he declared, his voice resonating through the corridors, echoing what had become a dire ultimatum, and in that heart-stopping moment, as familiar shadows wrapped around us, I realized that the true test was just beginning, with each revelation leading us closer to the line we couldn't erase. The echo of his words trailed in the air, lingering like smoke from a dying fire. Nanny's face drained of color, her eyes wide with fear. We stood paralyzed as if the shadows themselves conspired against us, the walls of the estate closing in like a cage. Run! I shouted, instinctively pushing Nadia and Jamie back, creating a barrier between them and the encroaching figure. Panic surged within me, urging me to act despite the rising tide of dread. But Nanny remained rooted in place, her gaze locked on the man who loomed larger than life. Gregory, she whispered, the name slipping free as if it were a long-buried secret vying for light. The heaviness of it hung between us, thick with memories of pain and betrayal. What do you want? She challenged him, her voice steadier now, though her quivering hands betrayed her. The shadows danced like specters at the edges of our vision, taunting us with the unveiling of truths long suppressed. That he grinned, a predator delighted by the hunt. Don't you see, my dear? You are the key to finishing this game. I could have protected you, Nanny, but you chose to run. Now, the past is clawing its way back in. Stop it! I shouted, stepping forward to shield her. Stay away from her, but Gregory only chuckled, his voice laced with malice. Brave, isn't he? Trying to save an illusion. He gestured dismissively, and with a flick of his wrist, the very air seemed to twist. A gale burst through the corridor, and the shadows morphed, curling like snakes. Nanny's voice sliced through the chaos. The secrets don't belong to you anymore. Tears glistened in her eyes, but where there had been only fear, now there was a flicker of defiance. Suddenly, the woman from the alley burst into action, her presence an anchor amidst the madness. You cannot control what was meant to be revealed. Her voice rang with authority as she thrust her arm forward. Know this, the strength of love can shatter even the darkest bonds. For a brief moment, hope stirred within me, but Gregory's laughter dismissed it effortlessly, echoing like thunder. Foolishness. She chose this curse the moment she shunned her history. You all will learn the hard way that shadows can consume anyone. The sudden thundering of footsteps pulled us back into reality. We have to go. Jamie shouted, gripping my arm, urging me toward the exit. Uncertainty bled into our resolve as the shadows whispered, hungry for the chase, stay together. I cried, guiding Nanny toward the door, but the darkness surged forward, swirling around us like a living entity, blocking our path and disorienting our senses. Each moment stretched agonizingly as we fought against the pull of despair. Just as the tendrils of darkness began to tighten around us, an unexpected warmth spread through my soul, a memory, a quiet reassurance. Nanny, I breathed, turning to her as the chaos spun on. You have us. We believe in you. Her eyes flickered with something fierce, a realization that her past held no power over her unless she let it. With a swift motion, she broke free from the snare of shadows, standing tall like a flame daring the dark to extinguish it. At that moment, the woman raised her voice again, her words imbued with magic and urgency. Speak your truth, Nanny. He cannot hold you if you claim your power. The atmosphere shifted, a pulse of energy radiating off Nanny. Though the darkness clawed at her heels, it recoiled at the strength she began to manifest. I won't let you control my story anymore, she declared, her stance unwavering as light began to fill the space around us. As the essence of her voice grew stronger, so did the shadows. Gregory's face twisted in rage. Foolish woman. Your strength is but a flicker against the storm. With every ounce of will, Nanny took a step forward. The shadows seemed to scream as they recoiled, but as they withdrew, I caught a glimmer of something hiding in their depths, an even darker secret, lurking just beyond reach. Then a deafening crash erupted through the hallway, and the very foundation of the estate shuddered. The walls groaned as cracks spiraled outward, and dust swirled around us like angry spirits seeking release. Get ready, I screamed, shoving Nanny and the others toward the only apparent exit, but Gregory screamed louder, his voice a guttural growl of fury. You'll regret this. This isn't over. There's more to the story than you know. As we stumbled through the doorway, I felt a shiver of trepidation as the shadows roared behind us, but light seeped into our path, guiding us onward. Just as we broke free into the open air, gasping for the sweet release of freedom, a figure silhouetted against the moonlight caught my eye. My heart dropped, recognition washing over me. It was Greg, my brother, his expression filled with dread as he stared back at me, his features twisted with fear. You shouldn't have come here, he shouted, his voice mixing with the sirens of the past. In that moment, the weight of the unfolding chaos solidified like a rock in my chest. Nanny gripped my arm tightly, and with her eyes glistening with unshed tears, she whispered, "There's something I haven't told you about Gregory. It's time we face the truth together." And as the shadows danced behind us in the swirling ruins of the estate, I realized we stood on the brink of a discovery that could shatter everything we thought we knew. Moments from now, the very fabric of our lives could unravel, our hidden truths threatening to surface at the most fateful timing. The night air was sharp and alive, filled with the aftermath of chaos and the unsettling weight of revelations yet to unfold. I stood frozen, my chest heaving as I took in my brother's haunted expression. His presence ignited a warmth amidst the swirling uncertainty that had engulfed us all. "Greg, what are you doing here? This isn't safe." His eyes darted back toward the estate, a look of fear lurking in their depths. "I came to warn you. You shouldn't have returned. Nanny's past, it's darker than you could ever imagine." The tremors of urgency in his voice resonated deeply within me. For a moment, I was torn between the safety of our bond and the truths hidden in Nanny's complicated life. I stepped forward, bracing myself. "We need to face it together. Both of you." I glanced at Nanny, who stood beside me, the remnants of fear still etched onto her face. "Tell us everything. Nothing can hold us back now." Nanny's gaze shifted from Greg to the shadows enveloping the estate, the walls echoing with fragments of every choice she had made. "You deserve to know, Mia. The truth can break the chains I've carried all this time." Her voice trembled yet held a newfound conviction, as if the mere act of revealing her history could light a path toward freedom. "Years ago, before I became your nanny, I was part of the same world of wealth and power. But it was never mine, it was thrust upon me through Gregory's family. I fled when I realized I could no longer stand the weight of their expectations, their greed. I was meant to be someone else's pawn. Greg's voice faltered. You don't have to carry this burden alone, Nanny. His tone softened, infusing the air with an undercurrent of kinship that redefined our entire dynamic. I've been searching for answers about our family, but it's beyond anything I could have fathomed. Nanny's eyes filled with tears, her raw emotions crashing over her like waves. You think I didn't want to tell you? I thought if I shielded you from my past, the darkness would fade. But instead, it only loomed closer. The moonlight bathed us in silver, illuminating the remnants of fears and insecurities that had long kept Nanny shackled to her past. What my family stole from Mimi identity, my autonomy, wasn't something I could reclaim until I confronted it. But that doesn't mean I wanted you burdened by it. I felt my heart twist painfully as I held her gaze, recognizing the sacrifice she had made in the name of love and protection. Nanny, you deserve to live freely. We can face him together. You're not defined by what they did. Tears streamed down her cheeks, glimmering like diamonds against the shadows. In my struggle for safety, I've kept you all blind to the truth. Greg stepped forward, his eyes locking onto hers. What if we worked together? We could uncover every piece of your history, reclaim your story. The air between us crackled with the intensity of possibility. As Nanny straightened, resolve sparked in her eyes. Yes, let's do this, she whispered, embracing the shadows of her past with a fierce newfound energy. Let's cut ties with worse than fear-shame. The collective determination fortified us, the weight of familial bonds forging a connection stronger than any darkness that threatened to engulf us. Together, I reiterated. No more running. But just as the air simmered with the resolve of our newfound alliance, the menacing figure re-emerged from the depths of the estate. You think you can reclaim what was taken? He scoffed, eyes glinting with malice. You're simply participating in your own destruction. Enough! I shouted, stepping forward once more. This time, we won't hide. You're mistaken if you think fear can hold sway over us. He opened his mouth to retort, but the woman from the alley appeared again, her spirit weaving through the fray. You possess no power here, she asserted, each word infused with strength. This family is forged by love. Their past will reshape their future, not break it. Greg and I flanked Nanny, our united front yielding unexpected strength. The man's facade cracked as realization dawned. You don't understand the depths of despair, he hissed, but Nanny's unwavering stance quelled his power. She took a step forward, grounding us with her resolute voice. My story does not end with you. I will not be a victim of my past. With each word she spoke, I could feel the chains binding our reality start to dissolve. It wasn't just Nanny's past being confronted, it was a reclamation of our identity, rebuilding the narratives that defined us. The shadows began to wane, retreating from the purity of our collective determination. The fire surged within us as we stood united, shoulder to shoulder, ready to battle the darkness that threatened to consume everything we cherished. Let it go. I yelled, battling back my own fear while tethering my gaze to Nanny's fiercely determined eyes. You cannot control us anymore. The laughter that followed from the man mirrored a desperate remnant of power, yet even he faltered. A flicker of fear crossed his features. You cannot win this. But before he could finish, a bright light enveloped us, radiating from behind Nanny as if the very essence of everything she was escaping propelled forward. From the depths of the shadows arose a bright, healing light that chased away his darkness until he could no longer be seen, his malevolence extinguished, consumed by the power of raw love and truth. That we stood together, chest heaving from both relief and the overflow of emotion. Nanny blinked back tears, a profound lightness cutting through decades of despair. We did it, Jamie whispered, voice bursting with disbelief and awe. Nanny wrapped her arms around us, embracing the vitality that pulsed within our small circle. Oh, my beloveds, we did. Together. Just then, a sensation crept through the cracks of the night, the reminder that shadows lingered, and the fight would always reveal itself again. But for the first time, I no longer felt afraid by the burdens of the past. "Remember this, always," Nanny said, drawing back to look at each of us in turn. "Love is the strongest force. With it, we overcome the darkest corners, heal past pain, and emerge renewed." As I squeezed her hand tightly once more, the truth settled within my heart, illuminating the spaces once darkened by fear and despair. From now on, we choose to face everything together. There it was, a promise brewing in the stillness, the potential for our lives overflowing with hope. In that moment, as the shadows embraced our past but released their hold on our right to happiness, I whispered a silent vow to always stand with my family. I turned to Nanny, feeling a warmth bloom in my chest, and I knew, with absolute certainty, our story would continue beneath the stars, untangled from the binds that had once threatened to crush our spirits. "Together," I said one last time, holding Nanny's gaze, the light of our shared future gleaming in the face of every night yet to come. And so, as we stepped into an uncertain dawn, we were no longer defined or confined by our pasts. We were forged anew, love binding us in an unbreakable bond, ready to embrace whatever truths lay ahead, the first step toward rewriting a story that had once enslaved us all.